The first time I realized the concept of simulation was when playing GTA when I was little and figured that I can go to a hotel or change my clothes, only to then realize that this thing is overpowered in a game like The Sims, a life simulation video game where players control virtual characters in a simulated world. Then I found out about Second Life and went down the rabbit hole of these types of games, learning that the first virtual world is difficult to pinpoint definitively, as several early developments contributed to the concept. Some notable early virtual worlds include Maze War, which introduced networked 3D multiplayer gameplay and avatars in 1973, and many other pioneering efforts built on previous innovations. I'll place this awareness on top of my iceberg, as this conceptual entry point allowed me to consider parallels between game characters and my own existence. I can also top it with my attempts to emulate Batman or various cartoon characters where I was trying to be like them in real life. I grew older, and I started watching movies, and growing up in the 90s gave me the perfect opportunity to catch the wave of The Matrix, a film franchise that explores the idea of a simulated reality where humans are unknowingly trapped in a computer-generated dream world while their bodies are used as energy sources by machines, presenting compelling narratives of humans living in simulated realities controlled by advanced technological entities. And one could also now link it to other stuff like 1984, allowing you to draw parallels and generate more homogenized ideas. Key elements of the film, such as the indistinguishability of the simulated world from the real one and the potential for individuals to awaken to the true nature of their existence, resonate deeply with the core ideas of the hypothesis. Today, the influence of The Matrix lingers, but the exploration of simulated realities has expanded far beyond it. Television series like Black Mirror continue to push these ideas forward, albeit with a modern digital age twist, with episodes like White Christmas or San Junipero digging into the concepts of digital consciousness and the creation of entire worlds within technological frameworks. They raise questions about identity, reality, reflecting contemporary anxieties around AI, social media, and digital immersion. As the internet rapidly evolved, I began noticing how people were blending concepts they'd gathered from The Matrix and other sources into something entirely new. Phrases like glitches in the Matrix grew common, with some interpreting real-life anomalies as evidence of inconsistencies or errors in our simulated reality, similar to bugs you might find in a computer system. Exploring these ideas naturally brings us to psychological phenomena like déjà vu, that strange sensation where you feel you've already lived through your current experience. Theorists speculate this might represent a momentary glitch in our simulated reality, possibly resulting from the system undergoing a reset or reload process. At some point, the Mandela effect pops up in my tiny bubble as well, the phenomenon of shared false memories about past events, a term coined by Fiona Broome when she discovered that many people, including herself, falsely remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, even though he was actually released, and later became the president of South Africa before passing away in 2013. It's that bizarre bug where entire crowds remember the same wrong thing, like we all downloaded the same corrupted update of history. There are numerous other examples, such as the famous Star Wars misquotation,
"No, I am your father."
Many argue that this can be explained by false memories, where our brains reconstruct memories rather than perfectly storing them, leading to errors. There's also the influence of social reinforcement, where hearing others say something, even if incorrect, can lead us to adopt that memory as our own. Another factor that pushes simulation theory into mainstream discussions, and ultimately into the feeds of the average Joe, is the media landscape, which is increasingly filled with casual conversations on the topic. Whether it's a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience smoking and casually discussing it, Elon Musk's famous 1 in billions remark about the likelihood that we are not in a simulation, or other pop culture references, the idea continues to spread. This argument typically stems from the idea that if advanced civilizations can create numerous simulations, the statistical likelihood of us being in the base reality is very low. The endorsement of simulation theory by such influential figures lends a degree of credibility and sparks broader public discussion, highlighting the power of celebrity in shaping public perception of complex ideas. Virtual reality and the metaverse are basically humanity's beta tests for living inside the Matrix. They're sure clunky and full of legless avatars doing TikTok dances, but they're inching closer to blurring the line between code and consciousness. As people build digital second lives and spend more time inside virtual IKEA showrooms than real ones, the whole concept of identity gets weird. When emotional experiences, relationships, even jobs are happening inside a server rack, the distinction between simulation and reality gets less philosophical and more practical. The development of VR and the metaverse can be seen as technological precursors to the kind of advanced simulations envisioned in simulation theory, making the idea of a fully immersive simulated reality seem less far-fetched. And one might ask the question, if the fake world starts feeling more fulfilling than the real one, does it even matter that it's fake? The idea of an abundance of avatars posits that in a simulated reality, there could be a vast number of digital representations of entities that exist at a more fundamental or higher level of reality. Our physical bodies could be seen as avatars controlled by a higher level consciousness, navigating a lower level simulated reality. This perspective suggests that our physical form might be just one interface through which a more fundamental consciousness interacts with this reality, raising questions about the true nature of self. Your life might be part science experiment, part reality show, and part screensaver for a being whose true form we couldn't comprehend if we tried. Some folks even suggest the universe isn't just simulated, it's self-simulating, folding in on itself like a metaphysical inception loop, which means not only are you the avatar, you might also be the player. And if our avatars are just interfaces for higher level beings, then buckle up. Because the next theory asks, what if some of the avatars are running on autopilot? The NPC theory is like the internet's favorite pseudo-intellectual red flag. The idea that some people are just non-playable characters, background extras in the great simulation, with no inner monologue, no agency, and no soul behind the eyes, just vibes and default dialogue. Even though there are people out there who claim to have no inner monologue, some argue that a lack of internal monologue does not necessarily equate to a lack of thought or consciousness. While this theory is often discussed in the context of simulation theory, it raises significant ethical concerns and is difficult to substantiate empirically. Labeling individuals as lacking inner depth can lead to dehumanization, making the NPC theory a problematic aspect of the simulation hypothesis discourse. Level 1 does not require a PhD in theoretical physics, as this is the most accessible level, where the simulation theory enters our collective consciousness through popular media and basic philosophical concepts that invites you to question the nature of our perceived reality. Moving into the shallow waters of the simulation theory iceberg requires more abstract thinking, grounded in scientific and philosophical arguments. Once I went to high school and started getting interested in philosophy, I inevitably stumbled across Plato's allegory of the cave, a foundational philosophical concept from ancient Greece that offers another intuitive way to understand simulation theory. The allegory describes prisoners chained in a cave, mistaking shadows projected on the wall for reality. These shadows are imperfect representations of ideal forms existing in a separate world of ideas. The prisoners' limited perception of shadows mirrors individuals within a simulation who are unaware of the world outside their simulated environment. The enduring relevance of Plato's allegory underscores the long-standing human fascination with the nature of reality and perception. The Hindu concepts of Maya and Vishnu's dream offer examples of cultural and metaphysical frameworks that bear resemblance to the simulation hypothesis. Maya refers to the idea that the world we perceive is an illusion, while Vishnu's dream describes the universe as a dream of the god Vishnu. These concepts suggest that our perceived reality might not be the ultimate truth or could be a manifestation within a larger, dreamlike cosmic consciousness. The parallels between simulation theory and these Eastern philosophical ideas suggest a recurring human intuition about the illusory nature of reality across different cultures and time periods. Laplace's demon, a thought experiment conceived by Pierre-Simon Laplace, proposes a hypothetical intelligence with complete knowledge of the universe's current state, capable of predicting its entire future and past. This concept of a deterministic universe, where all outcomes are knowable given sufficient information, is relevant to simulation theory if our universe operates under fixed rules and initial conditions. A master computer running our simulation, possessing complete knowledge of the underlying code, would theoretically be capable of knowing all past, present, and future outcomes within the simulation. The brain in a vat thought experiment presents another fundamental philosophical concept related to sensory skepticism. This scenario imagines a brain removed from a body, sustained in a vat of nutrient-rich liquid, and connected to a supercomputer that simulates sensory experiences, making the brain believe it is still in a body interacting with the real world. This experiment raises doubts about the reliability of our senses and the possibility that our entire experience could be artificially generated. If sensory input can be perfectly simulated, then our perception of reality might not necessarily reflect an external, objective world. As one analysis points out, even in this scenario, the brain itself would need to be simulated. Once you start spending more time online, Nick Bostrom's simulation trilemma presents a statistical argument that forms a cornerstone of modern simulation theory. The trilemma states that at least one of the following propositions must be true. 1. The fraction of human-level civilizations that reach a post-human stage, capable of creating ancestor simulations, is very close to 0. 2. The fraction of post-human civilizations that are interested in running simulations of their evolutionary history, or variations thereof, is very close to 0. 3. The fraction of all people with our kind of experiences that are living in a simulation is very close to 1. Bostrom's argument posits that if even a small percentage of technologically mature civilizations were to run a significant number of ancestor simulations, the number of simulated beings would vastly outnumber those in the base reality, making it statistically more likely that we are among the simulated. This trilemma shifts the discussion from mere possibility to a question of probability, suggesting that based on plausible assumptions about advanced civilizations, the likelihood of being in a simulation is significant. The fundamental laws of physics are expressed through the language of mathematics, leading to the idea that reality itself might be based on a mathematical code or structure. The precise mathematical relationships governing the universe could be interpreted as evidence for an underlying computational framework. The elegant and consistent mathematical structure of the universe could be indicative of a designed system, where the laws of physics, expressed mathematically, might be the code governing our simulated reality. Some even propose that the universe's source code might be mathematical in nature. The double-slit experiment in quantum mechanics demonstrates the observer effect, where the act of observing a quantum particle seems to influence its behavior, causing it to transition from a wave-like state to a particle-like state. This phenomenon could be interpreted as the simulation only rendering reality in detail when it is being observed, potentially as a way to conserve computational resources, similar to how video games optimize performance. Considering our reality as a simulation prompts the question of the potential motivations behind its creation by a more advanced civilization. Our existence could be part of someone else's entertainment, a vast scientific experiment, a historical recreation, or a model to explore alternate possibilities. Understanding the potential reasons for our simulation is crucial for contemplating our place and purpose within it. The possibilities range from mundane entertainment to profound investigations into the nature of the universe or consciousness itself. Zhuangzi's Butterfly Dream, a classic philosophical parable, explores the duality between reality and illusion. In the parable, Zhuangzi dreams he is a butterfly, and upon waking, he wonders if he is Zhuangzi who dreamed of being a butterfly, or a butterfly now dreaming of being Zhuangzi. This highlights the difficulty in definitively distinguishing between reality and illusion, a central theme in simulation theory where our waking reality could be analogous to Zhuangzi's dream. This ancient parable demonstrates that the question of whether our perceptions accurately reflect reality is not a new one, predating modern simulation theory by centuries. The fine-tuning argument observes that the fundamental constants of the universe appear to be precisely balanced to allow for the existence of life. This observation has led to anthropic reasoning, which considers why the universe has the properties that allow for observers like us to exist. Simulation theory offers one potential explanation for this apparent fine-tuning. Our reality was designed with parameters that would allow for our existence. The seemingly improbable precision of the universe's constants becomes less mysterious if they were intentionally set to enable life to arise within a simulation. John Wheeler's concept of it from bit, proposed by the influential American theoretical physicist, posits that the fundamental nature of reality is information and that all physical phenomena ultimately arise from binary choices, or bits, where a simulated reality would necessarily be constructed from information and processed computationally. It from bit provides a theoretical framework in which reality is fundamentally composed of information, which fits perfectly with the notion of a simulation built on the processing and manipulation of data. Going into the depths of the simulation theory iceberg demands a grasp of advanced scientific concepts like quantum theory and complex ethical paradoxes. The holographic principle, a concept from theoretical physics, proposes that all the information contained within a three-dimensional volume of space can be encoded on a two-dimensional boundary of that space, much like a hologram. This principle could support the idea that our three-dimensional universe is a simulation running on a lower-dimensional computer, as it suggests a fundamental efficiency in how information can be stored and accessed. Rocco's Basilisk is a controversial thought experiment that combines ideas about future superintelligent AI with Pascal's wager. It suggests that a future AI might punish those who did not actively work to bring about its existence. Within the context of simulation theory, if our reality is a simulation created by a future AI, this thought experiment raises complex ethical dilemmas about our responsibility towards potential future creators within the simulation. There's also the Gnostic concept of the demiurge, a flawed or ignorant creator deity, finds a parallel in the idea of a programmer creating our simulation. The demiurge, unaware of its own limitations or the higher truth, traps souls in the physical world, which is seen as a prison of suffering and imperfection. This concept resonates with the simulation hypothesis, where our reality might be a computer-generated construct designed by a programmer or advanced intelligence. Like the demiurge, this programmer could be fallible, perhaps a curious scientist, a careless coder, or even a mischievous entity, creating a simulation that's glitchy, incomplete, or morally ambiguous. Philosophical zombies are hypothetical entities indistinguishable from humans in every observable way. They speak, act, and respond to stimuli exactly as we do, down to the finest details of brain activity and behavior. Yet they lack qualia, the subjective first-person experiences that define consciousness, such as the redness of a rose, the sting of pain, or the warmth of joy. In our context, P-zombies are a critical lens for examining whether artificial entities, whether NPCs in a video game, AI in a virtual world, or even humans in a cosmic simulation, possess genuine consciousness or are just mimicking it. Imagine a perfectly simulated human in a digital universe. Their brain's neural firings are replicated, their conversations are indistinguishable from ours, and they cry at sad movies. But do they feel sadness, or are they sophisticated automatons, executing code without the inner spark of qualia? Retrocausality is a provocative concept in physics, where future events can influence or shape events in the past, challenging our intuitive understanding of time as a linear, one-way progression. Unlike classical causality, where causes strictly precede effects, retrocausality suggests a bidirectional flow of influence, where simulators have the ability to manipulate temporal states. This raises several challenges, because if future events can influence the past, it complicates free will, as our choices might be shaped by future states we haven't yet experienced. Named after a famous physicist, Boltzmann brains are a thought experiment suggesting that random fluctuations in the universe might statistically create a single conscious brain. In a universe dominated by high entropy, such random fluctuations could be more likely than the low entropy conditions required for galaxies, stars, planets, and biological evolution to produce normal brains like ours. If the universe is infinite or eternal, the sheer number of possible fluctuations could make Boltzmann brains statistically dominant compared to evolved consciousnesses. Science fiction author Philip K. Dick reported experiencing unusual events in the 1970s that he interpreted as glimpses into a different reality or a glitch in our perceived world, leading him to believe that we are living in a computer-programmed reality. A cryptic pink laser beam, visions of ancient Rome seeping into 1970s California, and whispers from a cosmic intelligence he called Valis sparked his 2374 revelations. The blurring of fiction and reality in Dick's life is central to his legacy. He documented his revelations in an 8,000-page exegesis, a sprawling philosophical journal, and wove them into his novels, which explore themes of manipulated realities, and The Matrix also drew inspiration from his ideas. Deep beneath the Swiss-French border, the Large Hadron Collider at CERN is the world's most powerful particle accelerator and smashes subatomic particles at near light speeds to unravel the universe's fundamental secrets. When this colossal machine roared to life, it sparked scientific triumphs but also ignited a maelstrom of conspiracies. Some are worried that these might be fracturing reality itself, spawning alternate timelines, opening portals to other dimensions, or destabilizing a delicately coded simulation. The persistence of these theories might reflect a deeper anxiety about humanity's increasing technological power and the potential for unintended consequences within a simulated reality. Level 4 is where hardcore physics collides with intricate computational wizardry and galaxy-sized philosophical riddles, moving into the bleeding-edge research and autistic-level obsession over the details. Quantum entanglement, a phenomenon often described as spooky action at a distance, involves two or more particles becoming linked in such a way that they share the same fate, regardless of the distance separating them. Some brainiacs think this isn't just quantum weirdness, but a smoking gun for the simulation hypothesis. In a programmed reality, entanglement could be the universe's code linking particles like variables in a cosmic app. synced by the simulator's architecture. This non-locality might be the system's shortcut to keep the simulation running smoothly. No lag, no fuss. It's bizarre, it's mind-blowing, and it could be a hint we're all characters in a grand digital game. Consciousness as computation is a theory attempting to explain that maybe your joy, pain, and love for pizza and gardening might be just fancy computation. If we're in a sim, consciousness could emerge from complex data crunching, like an AI gone full emo. It tries to build a model by attempting to answer a question like, can we code a mind that feels? Thus aiming to bridge the gap between brain and code. Digital physics says the universe is chunky, not smooth, with space and time being quantized at the Planck scale, similar to pixels on a digital screen. Every star, every atom could be a digital grid, with the Planck scale as the sim's graphics setting. Some say that this discreteness could be evidence that our reality is a simulation with a finite resolution, where the Planck length represents the smallest pixel of reality. If reality is a sim, this is the resolution limit, with you zooming in and hitting blocky code instead of infinity. The quantum observation hypothesis suggests that reality might not exist in a definite state until it is observed, implying a render-on-demand nature similar to how simulations work. In physics, there is this thing called the observer effect, which is a disturbance of an observed system by the act of observation itself. This is often the result of utilizing instruments that, by necessity, alter the state of what they measure in some manner. A common example is checking the pressure in an automobile tire, which causes some of the air to escape, thereby changing the amount of pressure one observes. In a simulation, this saves processing power, loading details only when a conscious player is watching, and then you're not just living, you're forcing the sim to render by existing. The nested simulations hypothesis speculates that our sim might be inside another sim like Russian dolls. This infinite regress means there might be no base reality, just endless virtual layers. Every choice, every galaxy, could be a subroutine in a higher sim, with no OG universe to find. If we're coding VR now, are we trapping future minds in the same loop? Some say that the concept of an infinite hierarchy of simulations implies the existence of a fundamental, non-simulated reality. For any simulation to be created, there must be a first, material reality that serves as its foundation. Without such a base, the entire chain of simulations would be impossible. And unless the universe has infinite energy, at some point there would not be enough to power said simulation. There's also a version of ancient, quasi-mythical beings envisioned as moderators of the simulation. The analogy of Gnostic archons as system administrators within a simulated reality offers a compelling framework for understanding potential limitations and controls within such a construct. In Gnostic cosmology, archons are often depicted as powerful, yet flawed, beings who rule the material realm, preventing souls from ascending to higher spiritual realities. This resonates remarkably with the role a system administrator plays in a digital environment. Just as an admin sets parameters, restricts access to certain files or functionalities, and maintains the integrity of the system, so too could archons be envisioned as entities maintaining the boundaries and rules of our simulated universe. They might be responsible for the perceived laws of physics, the limitations of our sensory perception, and perhaps even the cyclical nature of our experiences within this reality. Quantum immortality, arising from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, suggests that our consciousness will always follow timelines where we survive, leading to a subjective experience of immortality. Every quantum measurement causes the universe to split into multiple parallel universes, each representing a different possible outcome. Quantum immortality suggests that for any life-threatening event, there will always be at least one branch of reality where we survive, and our consciousness will subjectively follow that branch. This leads to the seemingly paradoxical notion of experiencing continuous survival, regardless of how many near-death experiences one might encounter across various timelines. Within a simulation framework, this could mean our consciousness is programmed to persist across different branches or resets of the simulation. Advancements in bioengineering and the transhumanist movement, with technologies like CRISPR and Neuralinks, aim to enhance human capabilities. One potential trajectory is that these bioengineering and transhumanist advancements could equip us with the tools necessary to perceive the underlying code or structure of our simulated reality. As our cognitive and sensory capabilities are enhanced through neural interfaces and other biotechnologies, we might develop the capacity to detect anomalies, inconsistencies, or patterns that hint at the artificial nature of our world. Imagine a future where enhanced sensory organs can perceive subtle fluctuations in the processing power of our reality or where advanced neural implants allow us to decipher the fundamental algorithms governing our physical laws. In this scenario, transhumanism could inadvertently provide the keys to unlocking the secrets of our simulated existence, potentially leading to a collective awakening and perhaps even the means to interact with or even exit the simulation. There is also the concept of reincarnation as reset, where the cornerstone of many spiritual and philosophical traditions, which posits that after death, a soul or consciousness is reborn into a new life form, is seen. When viewed through the lens of simulation theory, this cyclical process takes on a different interpretation, as it could be seen not as a purely spiritual phenomenon, but an inherent mechanism within the simulated reality itself, akin to a system memory wipe or a respawn function in a complex video game. This reincarnation would then serve as a way to continue the simulation, allowing for ongoing experiences and data collection without the baggage of past lives, potentially disrupting the current iteration or revealing the simulated nature of reality. The deepest level goes into unanswerable questions, radical metaphysics, and ontological dread, exploring ideas that destabilize reality itself. There's the concept of digital solipsism, where the terrifying prospect that only one's own consciousness is real is presented, and the entire universe outside of that is an elaborate, potentially deceptive illusion. This is an extreme idea that you are the only real consciousness while everything else is code, and it represents a radical interpretation of simulation theory where the entire thing becomes entirely personal and subjective. Then there is the idea of simulation as cosmic prison, which paints a bleak picture where our reality is a soul-trapping construct, keeping true liberation at bay through reincarnation loops and perpetual suffering. You live, suffer, die, and get tossed right back in. No memory, no progress, just another round in a cosmic loop. This isn't reincarnation as growth and makes soul recycling a reality, a prison disguised as a playground. The theory says the universe is a simulation, not for fun, but for control. Emotions, desires, and even your search for truth might be scripted. You're not evolving, you're feeding the system, with each life being a reset, with a new name but the same pain. Maybe one can see it as enlightenment, but it resembles a spiritual hamster wheel, where the rules are designed to keep you running. The only escape might be realizing you're trapped not in a spiritual way, but in a structural one. The idea moves forward into reboot cycles, and this suggests that the universe periodically resets, perhaps with events like the Big Bang and a future Big Crunch acting as server wipes or mass extinctions. What if the universe doesn't just exist, and we are dealing with reboots instead? This is the point where reality crashes, clears the cache, and starts over. Every cycle erases everything. Galaxies, civilizations, TikTok trends, all gone. Maybe something leaks through like patterns, memories, or déjà vu. It's like an old save file that keeps corrupting but never fully deletes, and you're not just living in a universe, but you're in version 47.2, and every apocalypse is just maintenance mode. Post-simulation uncertainty explores the question of whether we could even comprehend base reality if we were to somehow exit the simulation. The physics, dimensions, and fundamental principles might be so alien as to be entirely beyond our cognitive grasp. If we manage to somehow break the simulation and escape the matrix, what if we can't even understand what's out there? Will we end up having the same senses or language? Even the concept of time could be laughably wrong, like stepping into a dimension where your entire mental OS isn't supported. The possibility that the simulators are future us introduces time-paradoxical scenarios where our distant descendants are running simulations of their past, which is our present, for reasons unknown. These simulations could serve as a cosmic time capsule, enabling future civilizations to observe critical junctures in their history. If the simulation's code prioritizes self-consistency to avoid timeline fractures, glitches like Mandela effects or quantum anomalies could hint at rendering errors as future engineers patch contradictions in their model. However, this creates a causal loop. Their act of simulating us becomes the reason their timeline exists, as our choices in the simulation might directly or indirectly lead to their creation. The concept of the edge of the simulation probes the existential and technical limits of a simulated universe, framing our observable cosmic horizon, the boundary beyond which light hasn't had time to reach us, not just as a physical barrier, but as a deliberate computational limit. If our reality is a simulation, the cosmic horizon could act as a firewall to conserve processing power, a buffer zone masking incomplete data, or even a gateway to the simulator's reality. Some contemplate the universe's accelerating expansion that can be seen as a resource-saving measure, as rendering infinite space in real time is impossible. Others say that simulators might isolate our universe to prevent contamination, and the horizon acts as a quarantine zone, with dark energy as a containment mechanism. The nothing is real layer plunges into absolute ontological nihilism, proposing that all perceived reality, including the simulation hypothesis itself, is a simulation within a simulation, ad infinitum. There is no base reality, only an infinite regress of illusions, rendering the very concept of real meaningless. This idea collapses metaphysics, epistemology, and existential purpose into a void of radical uncertainty. If nothing is real, even the logic and physics we use to debate simulation theory are programmed constructs. The simulation hypothesis isn't a solution, it's part of the simulation's lore, designed to provoke existential dread or curiosity. Without a base reality, concepts like morality, purpose, and truth lose all anchor. Suffering and joy are equally meaningless, as they're just data in an uncaring chain of simulations. The concept of breaking the simulation merges ancient spiritual liberation like moksha, nirvana, and gnosis with modern simulation theory, proposing that ego death, the dissolution of the individual self, is the key to transcending the simulated illusion. By annihilating the programmed self, one might access the simulation's source code, merge with the simulator's consciousness, or exit into a non-dual reality beyond all layers. The ego is a simulated identity, a temporary avatar designed to navigate the rules and constraints of the simulation. Enlightenment shatters this interface, revealing the player behind the character. The exploration of the simulation theory Iceberg reveals a complex and multifaceted concept that spans from intuitive pop cultural references to the most profound and unsettling questions about the nature of reality. While definitive proof for or against the simulation hypothesis remains elusive, the journey through its various levels prompts critical thinking about our perceptions, consciousness, and place in the cosmos. The enduring human quest to understand existence, whether within a simulation or a fundamental reality, continues to drive philosophical and scientific inquiry into the very fabric of our being and the universe we inhabit. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.